today. Championship or bust. That's the only thing that's going to restore some type of faith in this Indiana Fever front office, and I'm not even sure if that is enough. Championship or bust. We all know if you have Caitlin Clark on her team, you got a shot. But if you really want Caitlin Clark to win, what are you going to say?
Championship or bust. That's not hyperbole. That's the reality facing the Indiana Fever front office right now. Because when you have the biggest needle mover in women's basketball history on your roster, when you have someone who single-handedly transformed your franchise from irrelevant to sold out, you don't get the luxury of mediocrity anymore. You don't get participation trophies for making the playoffs. And you definitely don't get credit for moves that make your entire fan base question whether you understand what you actually have.
The Indiana Fever continue to face backlash over this offseason, continue to face backlash over the draft, continue to face backlash over Stephanie White, continue to face backlash over my name's Amber Cox, continues to face backlash over Kelly Crosskoff. Fans are still, and rightfully so, not happy, not excited, not enthused. Feel like not only fans have been betrayed, they feel like the front office betrayed Caitlin.
Here's what Fever fans are screaming into the void right now. They watched their team come within one game of the WNBA Finals last season. One game, with a rookie point guard who was still learning the league, still adjusting to the physicality, still figuring out how to translate her college dominance to the professional level. And she nearly carried them all the way. So the logical question becomes, what pieces do you add around that generational talent to get over the hump? The answer, apparently, was to draft Raven Johnson 10th overall, a backup point guard. When you already have a backup point guard in Temi Fagbenle making significant money, when your biggest weakness all season was depth at the forward positions and lack of a legitimate backup for Aaliyah Boston.
Play Caitlin Clark ball, and if they make a run and win the championship. Folks, last year we were a game away from getting there. In theory, according to what many of you guys say, they got better in the offseason. Got better players around her. Caitlin Clark's coming back out. Cool. So it's championship or bust. And if it's not championship or bust, well, probably because of what I've been saying, they just didn't put enough pieces around her. The correct pieces around her with the adequate skill set around her. The adequate skill set.
Let's talk about what adequate means in this context. Because this isn't about building a competitive roster. The Fever already have a competitive roster. They made the playoffs, they won playoff games, they pushed the Connecticut Sun to the brink. Adequate for most franchises might mean incremental improvement, adding role players, developing young talent over time. But when you have Caitlin Clark, adequate isn't good enough. You're not building for 5 years from now. You're building for right now, while you have her on a rookie contract, before she has the leverage to demand a trade or walk in free agency. The window is open today, and the front office just spent a top 10 pick on insurance for a position where they already have the best player in the league and a capable backup.
Indiana Fever put up a post yesterday. This is yesterday. Indiana Fever put up a post. Well, what are you waiting for? Come enjoy the show. Additional single game tickets available now. No thanks. I'd like to see Caitlin Clark be Caitlin Clark. Not happening on this team, with this coach, with this front office. I appreciate you asking, though. Good luck. I'm not spending a single dime on this franchise just to watch CC ride the bench or play small forward for another season. Any lineup that has Caitlin Clark as small forward will be a lineup that deserves to get crushed, destroyed, demolished.
The social media response tells you everything you need to know about how this landed with the fan base. The Indiana Fever posted about additional single-game tickets being available, standard promotional content for any team. And the replies were brutal. Not just critical, but outright hostile. Fans saying they're not spending money to watch Caitlin Clark play small forward. Fans comparing the front office decision-making to organizational malpractice. Fans openly hoping she leaves for a competent franchise. Think about that for a second. These are Fever fans, people who presumably want the team to succeed. And they're so disgusted with the front office that they're rooting for their best player to leave. That's not normal sports fan behavior. That's what happens when you systematically erode trust through a series of questionable decisions.
The best point guard in the league off Baltimore, it's time to move on. How a big fat F you. This starts the beginning of Caitlyn leaving F Amber and White. And I did say this. I've said this multiple times, and I think this is a real possibility. When she leaves Indiana, like LeBron left Cleveland, don't be surprised. Don't burn her jersey. Just look at the front office, and you'll understand why she left. It's actually sad. It is.
The comparisons to LeBron James leaving Cleveland aren't as far-fetched as they might seem. Cleveland thought LeBron was too loyal to leave. He was a hometown kid, drafted by his home state team, carrying the franchise on his back. Cleveland fans convinced themselves that loyalty would override everything else, that he'd never abandon them. And then he did, because at some point, even loyalty has limits. At some point, a generational talent looks around and realizes the organization isn't serious about winning, that they're wasting prime years of their career because the front office can't get out of its own way. Caitlin Clark is from Iowa. She's Midwestern to her core. She's shown nothing but professionalism and commitment to the Fever organization. But she's also fiercely competitive. She didn't break every NCAA scoring record because she's content with moral victories. So when Fever fans worry about her leaving, they're not being dramatic. They're pattern matching to every other time a small market team failed to maximize their superstar's window.
To do some scouting and draft pieces for the team. Instead, she was vacationing in Africa, coaching Team USA, and broadcasting college women's basketball. I was ready before yesterday. Now I'm thinking about spending the $40 WNBA League Pass money on a half a tank of gas instead. If you play Caitlyn at 2, you're doing her wrong. Then you brought in a person who lied about the Fever and is trashing CC. Now we have to support someone who hates us based on skin color. I hope CC leaves. You don't deserve her. Folks, South Carolina fans been going at it with Fever fans since Monday.
Now let's address the elephant in the room. The Raven Johnson pick wasn't just questionable from a positional standpoint. It was controversial because of the baggage that comes with it. Johnson made comments about Caitlin Clark fans during her college career that didn't exactly endear her to the Fever fan base. She was part of the South Carolina program that had a contentious relationship with Iowa and with Clark specifically. And look, you can argue that's all college rivalry stuff. That once you're on the same professional team, that history doesn't matter. But optics matter. Fan perception matters. And when you're already dealing with a fan base that feels like the organization doesn't prioritize their franchise player, bringing in someone with that history sends a message. Whether that message is intentional or not is almost irrelevant. The damage is done.
It goes on and on and on and on and on. Lots of guards don't think we'll be short on bigs. Dumbest I've ever seen. Literally put negative players on the roster with Caitlyn. Expect her to carry them. Worst draft class I've ever seen. You drafted 2 short guards when you needed bigs. Makes no sense. I can see it now. Fever down 2. So if he gets a steal, passes to Raven, who's wide open. Break. They draft a lying racist who hates CC. Disappointed. Y'all drafted 3 guards to let AB out there in the trenches. Yup, no backup for AB still. No backup for Aaliyah Boston still.
The Indiana Fever's social media strategy after the draft tells you they knew this was going to be a problem. Look at their Twitter timeline from draft night. Raven Johnson content. More Raven Johnson content. Raven Johnson highlights. Raven Johnson interviews. Raven Johnson graphics. They flooded the zone trying to manufacture enthusiasm for a pick they had to know would be divisive. Compare that to how they handled Carly Michaela Timpson last year. 3 posts, maybe 4, and they moved on. Standard draft pick announcement, welcome to the team, here's your jersey number. Done. But with Johnson, they went into full PR mode. 14 separate posts about 1 mid-first round pick. That's not confidence in your decision, that's damage control. And the fans saw right through it. The replies under every single post were savage. People pointing out they already have 2 point guards. People asking why they didn't draft a big. People questioning the entire organizational philosophy.
16%, but they're not done. Raven Johnson, 11. Raven Johnson, 12. Raven Johnson, 13. Raven Johnson, 14. They just can't, they can't help themselves. Stephanie White drooling at the mouth. Not the only one drooling out the mouth. Chloe Peterson, you're drooling out the mouth too. Chloe Peterson, Caitlin Clark is an offensive-driven point guard. Raven Johnson is a defensive-minded point guard. Chloe, they can fit, like you said. They're both point guards. And then Chloe Peterson, in her nice condescending way, says, have you ever heard of this thing called a backup? Let's just say it didn't go well for Chloe.
Here's the financial absurdity of this situation. The Fever now have $700,000 in salary committed to backup point guards. Temi Fagbenle and Raven Johnson combined. $700,000 for players who will never see the floor at the same time as your franchise player because they play the exact same position she does. In a league with a hard salary cap where every dollar matters, where championship contenders are making difficult choices about which role players to keep, the Fever just allocated significant resources to redundancy. That's not depth. Depth is having quality players at multiple positions. This is hoarding point guards like you're preparing for a position-specific apocalypse. Meanwhile, Aaliyah Boston is still out there without a legitimate backup. The Fever are one Boston injury away from being completely cooked in the paint. But sure, let's make sure we have 3 point guards. That'll win us a championship.
At 10. You pick a backup for the backup at 10. A backup for the backup at 10? Not just a backup at 10. You pick a backup for the backup at 10. Chloe Peterson. I will assume this is troll, otherwise you're going for Diana Orsini levels of credibility. Damn. Damn, you really this stupid, huh? Damn. Raven's going to be fine. According to Steph White, Cece is a small forward who sits in the corner waiting for playmakers to get her the ball. What is Ty Harris? We're going to be the only team with 3 point guards on opening day. What about a backup to Aaliyah Boston? No, Chloe. They want to minimize Kaylin and play her off ball at the 2 and even at the 3 when her contract.
The Stephanie White hire was supposed to calm these concerns. She's a former Fever player, Indiana native, someone who understands the market and the pressure. But then she started talking about playing Caitlin Clark off ball more, about utilizing her as a shooting guard or even a small forward in certain lineups. And suddenly, the coaching hire that was supposed to be a home run became another source of anxiety for the fan base. Because here's the thing about Caitlin Clark. She's not just a good point guard who can also play off ball. She's the best point guard in the league. She led the WNBA in assists as a rookie. She runs an offense at a pace and with a creativity that transforms how defenses have to approach the entire game. Taking the ball out of her hands isn't unlocking hidden potential. It's handcuffing your best weapon to make inferior players more comfortable.
Credibility for this front office is championship or bust. Not semifinals or bust. Championship or bust. Not get to the championship game. Championship or bust. It's the only thing that'll salvage this. Championship or bust. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like the video, hype the video, subscribe to the channel. That would mean so much to me. See you next time, and as always, take it easy.
So here's where we are. The Indiana Fever have the most marketable player in women's basketball history. They have a rookie who sold out arenas across the league, who drove television ratings to unprecedented levels, who made the WNBA relevant in mainstream sports conversation for the first time in years. They have a generational talent who is entering her 2nd season with playoff experience, with a full offseason to improve, with the foundation of a competitive roster around her, and the fan base doesn't trust the organization to maximize that opportunity. Not because the fans are unreasonable, not because they're expecting instant championships, but because the front office keeps making decisions that suggest they don't fully understand what they have, or worse, that they understand it and simply don't care about optimizing for Caitlin Clark's success. The draft was the latest example. It won't be the last, and every questionable move, every head-scratching decision, every moment where the organization chooses comfort over championship-level ambition, the trust erodes a little more. The patience wears a little thinner. The LeBron leaving Cleveland comparisons get a little more plausible. Championship or bust isn't just a catchy phrase. It's the standard this front office set for themselves the moment they drafted Caitlin Clark. Because when you have a player that's special, anything less than maximizing their window is organizational malpractice. The Fever made the playoffs last year. They won playoff games. They came within 1 game of the finals. That's not good enough anymore. Good enough is a championship. And every decision between now and then will be measured against that standard. The Raven Johnson pick failed that test. The Stephanie White comments about playing Clark off-ball failed that test. The lack of front court depth still fails that test. And the fan base is keeping score. They're watching every move, analyzing every decision, comparing what the Fever are doing to what championship organizations do. And right now, the comparison isn't favorable. So what happens next? Either the Fever prove the doubters wrong, let Caitlin Clark cook, surround her with the right pieces, and make a legitimate championship run, or they don't. And if they don't, if they waste another year of her rookie contract on suboptimal roster construction and questionable coaching decisions, then the LeBron comparisons stop being hypothetical. They become a roadmap, because loyalty only goes so far. Caitlin Clark is competitive. She's driven. She wants to win at the highest level. And if the Indiana Fever can't provide that path, someone else will. New York would take her in a heartbeat. Las Vegas would clear cap space tomorrow. Any contender in the league would reorganize their entire roster to build around her. The question is whether the Fever front office understands that. Whether they recognize the urgency of the moment. Whether they're capable of making the hard decisions, the smart decisions, the championship-level decisions that this opportunity demands. Because the clock is ticking. The window is open. And championship or bust isn't just a slogan. It's the reality of having a generational talent on your roster. You either maximize it, or you watch it walk away. There's no middle ground, not anymore.